Hello, everyone. I'm Pavlas Varsatskas, and I'm your host. And this is Prometheus and the Ecosystem Community Meeting. We follow Prometheus Code of Conduct here, so please be nice to one another. This is being recorded and published on YouTube. Today on our agenda, we have someone talking about Prometheus. We have people from Thanos, from Cortex, and from Grafana talking about Cloud Agent. So
sorry to chime in. Did you restart the recording?
It's still recording.
No, if you restarted the recording.
I'll cut it. I'll
okay,
edit
sorry.
it out.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, and this
Just
is
making
Matthias. He's out. Cool. So I guess we can start with Prometheus.
Yes, so the latest release of Prometheus is out. It's the 2.17 and it includes mainly like isolation in TSDB so that you cannot see alpha scrape or alpha recording rule. This comes with a few CPU and memory increase, but it's not that much apparently. And people seems to be happy with that. Just make sure that you take the first minor release and not the 2.17.0. So take the .1 where we fixed regression in the performance.
Awesome. If you have any questions, please use the chat below.
I just want to add that we actually don't have any bugs now, so we don't plan to release a .2 at the moment. So the .1 should be good enough for everyone.
Cool. I guess, again, if you have any questions, please submit them. We will wait a bit for the questions, and then I guess move on to next topic.
So we move on to PromCon, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So for anyone who didn't see, we extended the CFP period for the North American edition of PromCon. We are fully aware that with the current pandemic, it's unclear what will happen, but still we would like to encourage everyone who thinks about submitting something, just submit something so we can so we have more to choose from. And also, as of current planning, we will most likely be making the final call on what happens around PromCon and with PromCon North America in early May. Because then we should have enough visibility of what is actually happening with travel restrictions and everything. Would we be quarantined if traveling, blah, blah, blah. So, but up until that time, please keep submitting stuff.
Awesome. Looks like we have a bunch of questions. So first one, could you post somewhere in the docs what you need to know before starting with Prometheus?
I think let's maybe postpone those questions like after the announcements, maybe. Like,
okay.
There's like a point for questions even on our agenda. What do you think? Unless it's relevant to the PromCon, maybe there are some.
There is a relevant PromCon question.
Yeah. Are there plans to make the PromCon a full remote in some way, if not possible otherwise?
Currently, the consensus is no. We would probably be looking at making some content available. It probably not be in the same time limitations, because a large part of what makes PromCon is the in-person interactions and the water cooler chat and all that jazz. So if we lose that benefit, we would probably be looking at making announcements and having talks recorded without any time constraints. But we would still be trying to get all the content out which needs to get out, which is also another reason why it makes sense to submit to the CFP. Because if you have stuff which is worthwhile, we would be getting in contact to get this out in some way. But it would not take the form of one singular conference. It might be a series of webinars. It might be something else. We just don't know yet.
Cool. Awesome. I guess I don't see any more questions about PromCon. I guess we can move on to Cortex. Gautam, take away.
Hi, can you hear me? Yep. So we launched Cortex 1.0 last week. So Cortex is this horizontally scalable Prometheus API compatible solution that you can make all your Prometheuses send their data to, and you get a central place to query things. It's a 4-year-old project, and we decided to cut 1.0 because we realized it's ready. And the big features of 1.0 is easy to use single binary solution, so that you can get started with Cortex on your laptop, and also you can use the same single process solution to scale out. We also provided API and stability guarantees so that you can safely upgrade without breaking things. And the third, what was the third thing? Yeah, the third thing is improved documentation and guides. So we have a website, cortexmatrix.io, that you can visit and get started. And also, like, we have production guides and dashboards and all of that published. So the message around that is Cortex has been running in production for more than 3 years, but if you have been using it for since the last 2 years, you most likely would have to look at code. Now you no longer need to. So that's it.
Awesome. Any questions around Cortex being 1.0? So when did you actually release it?
Thursday. Thursday on 4th, I think, or 5th.
So it's like 5th day.
Actually, give me a second. We released it on 2nd. Yeah, sorry, we released on 2nd.
Awesome. Congratulations. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions around Cortex 1.0, good time to ask.
I have a question. So when is the party?
So we already celebrated our party, everyone at their own house. But once the whole situation is over, we will be popping some beer somewhere, hopefully.
Yeah, I wish for some ecosystem party, you know?
Yep.
Good.
Cut Thanos 1.0 too, and then we can have a bigger party.
Okay.
If you all want to travel to Germany, we can just have the party here tomorrow, maybe.
Great suggestion. Not sure that's possible. All right. So let's plan this offline, the next party, I guess. Anyway, there are more announcements, and I think the next one is from Grafana as well on the Grafana Cloud Agent.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago, Grafana announced the Grafana Cloud Agent. So just for some context, we were trying to build something based around the complaints we heard from Grafana Cloud users. So mainly, why do they need local storage still if all the storage is going to Cortex? These customers also don't really want to use sharding the recommended way. They like having one giant Prometheus because it's just easier to configure once. And aside from that, we're adding more and more products. So installing a bunch of different agent binaries, so Promtail and Prometheus, it's not as smooth as we'd like it to be. So the idea is we are vendoring Prometheus, and we are just using service discovery, scraping, and remote write. We also add on a kind of like a no effort sharding solution. So if you're using Kubernetes service discovery, we're only going to scrape, let's see if I can phrase this right, scrape metrics that are co-located on the node the agent is running on. So that way you have a cluster-wide Kubernetes service discovery config, and you're only scraping targets from each node in the cluster. And just because we're not using any local storage, it just happens to use less memory. About 40% less, I think, is the overhead of TSDB over time. But it's not like a perfect solution. There's some trade-offs. So now alerting is the responsibility of Cortex and ruling or recording rules. So the alerts are very far away from the targets. You're going to lose reliability when you're using this host filtering mechanism. Like if a node goes down, you can't get alerted on it, since that node would be monitoring itself essentially. And if you move to the agent, you're also risking some vendor lock-in depending on how the third party is implementing cloud side rules and alerts. But we've been using it ourselves for a while, and we're happy with it, and it's public, so please try it out.
And I just want to add, while it's called Grafana Cloud Agent, we just use simple Prometheus remote write. So if you're using any cloud solutions or like any Prometheus remote write compatible solutions like Thanos Receive, M3DB, Victoria Matrix, any solutions in the ecosystem, you can still use the same agent and have the same scalability and like the free sharding. But given you depend on network and an external solution.
Yeah, and the name right now is kind of just confusing, but the idea is over time we're going to add Graphite support and Loki support, which is all part of the Grafana Cloud suite, hence the name.
But when you say you don't need local storage, you still have a whole directory, right?
It's a very small WAL. After we've confirmed that it's been remote written, we'll just drop it from the next checkpoint. But yes, we still have the WAL.
So it's still persistent. Like if remote write server is down, how long you can persist the data? Is there any limit? Or can you persist?
I mean, that depends how remote write handles the write head log.
No, I mean like literally Cortex is down for some reason or your cluster is out of the network.
Right. I mean, we're not going to delete anything from the write ahead log until it's been remote written successfully.
Okay, so let's say I have that case for 1 week, then what? What will happen essentially? Right?
What would happen in Prometheus?
No, within agent.
No, I know, but it's the same question. Like, what
yeah.
would Prometheus, because remote write is only reading from the WAL.
Okay,
So whatever Prometheus does is the same thing the agent's going to do.
Okay, so the same thing.
So in Prometheus, what happens is after 2 hours, we delete the old data because in 2 hours, we cut a block from the wall data. So if the agent is not deleting data, you likely will fill up disk.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yep.
So
definitely
Prometheus
configure, right?
Prometheus will keep it around for 6 hours currently. 3 hours in the next release.
This is a good.
I guarantee in the protocol that we only keep it around for 2 hours, at least in the docs.
No, there isn't. At some point, you just lost data and you can work from blocks. Hopefully.
My takeaway is I need to make a change so we do delete it after a while from the agent.
Yeah, like in Prometheus, it's all tied to the compaction cycle, and I'm guessing you don't have one of those. So you probably need to call truncate every now and then or something.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, checkpoint and then delete. It's all in the head code.
Yeah.
In the truncate function.
I borrowed with heavy quotes the TSDB code, so it's using the same checkpointing stuff just without the head blocks.
This is good. This is good that you borrow because that's why Prometheus is open source, right? So that's totally good. My question is like you are adding Graphite and maybe, I don't know, maybe Promtail to this or whatever. Like, do you want to have a separate kind of components for that? Or like from code perspective, you try to embed it within the wall, TSDB?
It's they're not going to interact with each other. It's essentially going to act as like an Uber binary.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
So the intention behind this is basically to account for organizational stuff within customer companies. It's not so much, So that's basically the underlying intention that also gives you a direction of where the whole thing will develop.
All right, perfect. We have 10 minutes left, so let's move on. If you still have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or in the question and answer section. But we have 10 minutes and 3 questions. So I think Lucas, sorry. Go ahead and do your announcement.
Cool. Hey, so I'm Lucas. I'm one of the Thanos maintainers, and I just want to give an update about the new Thanos release that we've been working on for the last while. We just cut the second release candidate, so that's RC1 of our version 0.12.0 of Thanos. And I just want to give a little bit of an overview of the new things that we're adding to Thanos in this iteration. Firstly, one of the main things we've done is that we've enabled the ability to do vertical compaction for offline deduplication of blocks and object storage. So this will greatly improve querying speed and reduces resource consumption when you're querying for metrics that are in blocks that are ingested by a Thanos receive with replication enabled. So if you have a hash ring of receivers and they're replicating maybe 3 times all the data they ingest, and you end up with 3 copies of all the blocks in your object storage, and deduplicating this will massively improve your querying performance. We also have promoted our new index header operation mode for the bucket store to the default, also making our stores much more efficient and less resource hungry. And we also added a bunch of new UI changes. Specifically, we enabled the bucket web UI on the store and the compactor. And this means that now you can, when you're running the store, you can see all of the blocks at the store and the compactor are actually loading when you navigate to /loaded. And on the compactor, you can see all of the blocks that are in the bucket at /global. We also fixed a really, really nasty bug in the store that caused all of the posting offsets, rather than just a subset of them, like 1/32 of these offsets to get loaded. And this bug, number one, there was a correctness issue and it caused some problems, but it also significantly reduces memory utilization insanely. And we want to give special thanks to Mike Kabishev and Dmitry Ulyanov, who helped out in the community, super hardcore. And then, yeah, we have a bunch of other things like a new strict operation mode for the bucket store that does enable strict handling of healthiness to give better response caching and also error handling and stuff. And there's a proposal that you can read for that. So yeah, those are some of the main things we've done in this iteration. And hopefully, if everything is stable, we'll soon be able to cut the official release in the next few days or the next week.
All right, very cool. Due to time, please put your questions in the chat and the Q&A. So let's move on because we still have 2 topics. And I think next one, Bartek, you want to say something? Bartek and I have been SIG observability voted, or maybe Richie. I don't know who put this in here. So there's a CNCF SIG observability working group, or a SIG, and that has been accepted by the TOC in the CNCF.
Am I wrong?
Yes, exactly. Last Monday, the TOC voted us in. Yesterday, it was confirmed officially. So now there is a SIG observability within CNCF. Matt Young and me are chairs. We will still need to select tech lead. The current person who is most likely to be the first tech lead is Bartek. And as Cortex was the only project to submit this yearly health thingy as of right now, that is most likely the first thing we will be looking at within the SIG. There will be a mailing list. There is already a Slack channel on the CNCF Slack, and we will also publish a cadence of calls and such. So anyone interested is more than welcome to join.
Awesome news. Yeah, awesome news. Yeah, if you have any questions, I think we still can run a bit over because we started later. So yeah, if you have any questions, please submit them. Yeah, and I think we can move on to next topic, the new benchmark dashboard.
Yeah, so the benchmark dashboard, which I originally created because I was benchmarking Prometheus 1 point something. I haven't updated in a year. I just updated it this morning. Now, this is actually an absolutely terrible example of a dashboard because it has over 50 graphs on it, and it is completely ununderstandable unless you're a Prometheus developer. However, if you're trying to get assistance from the Prometheus developers and are having a performance problem, including a Grafana snapshot of this will make the Prometheus developers' lives much, much easier, because it is all the core processes, or at least everything we have metrics for, which should be everything because we're Prometheus. It'll help understand what's going wrong, if something is going wrong, and where a performance problem is. But that's just very useful for general debugging if you're looking for help, either yourself or from Prometheus team or the broader community. And the link is in the meeting notes itself, because I'm not going to attempt the screen share.
All right, perfect. Yeah, please refer to the meeting notes, which are titled by 8th of April 2020. All right, so I think Ben had a question. I think like if there are no direct questions from anyone directly at the benchmark dashboard, we can just move on, and people can still put questions into the question section in the doc or even in the chat here. But then let's move on. Like Ben, I think you are able to talk, so go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, no, I just had a quick random idea, which was I was digging through our build flags and noticed that we don't have build flags on the discovery components. And I was wondering if there would be any objection to adding, say, no zookeeper and no Kubernetes and etc. build flags, so that if I wanted to build a Prometheus server for more memory constrained embedded use, I could build it with just enough service discovery for my embedded use, and also maybe other parts of the binary of the so I could do like embedded Prometheus.
So I think that if you remove Azure, you will cut the binary by 2, the size, I mean.
Yeah, so this is actually a long-standing thing, and we've discussed this at a few dev summits. I think the last one was 2-3 years ago. So I'd have to find the issues, but my recollection is that where I think we is mostly Bartek, was going to split and refactor things so that you could do this, and it should be more like how the node exporter works and so on. And I think we've gotten most of the way towards factoring that so that everything doesn't depend on one like Uber constructor, but the final steps haven't been done. And I guess this is something where the community could help in finally breaking those dependencies. And at that point, then it doesn't seem utterly unreasonable to have build flags there.
Oh yeah, we need some kind of like register constructor in there as well. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, the config needs to be all broken out. Like by now, everything's moved out of the central config package, and most of that's now being distributed across the code base, but then that needs to be done recursively for each of the discoveries. And if someone does that work, then later on, we can then add build flags. But right now, it just caused Prometheus to fail to compile.
Yeah, I fully agree. I would, because we were looking on because essentially it's a plugin problem, right? And we are looking on various solutions in Go ecosystem. And we are really going in the direction of the core DNS plugins. So we should look on them. It's essentially build-based type of plugins. So you can not only we can not only like fix it from the build size kind of side of it, but also we could, allow, separate remote, some kind of interface that we could add plugins outside of Prometheus repository stuff. So we could make it, pluginable truly. So this is like a good opportunity maybe to look on that. So I would look on core DNS plugins, how they do it.
I'll point out that such things have been discussed before and are contentious. Like I personally do not want third-party code running inside the Prometheus binary, because we have enough support problems as is. But like if people want to compile their own Prometheus from scratch with custom stuff, sure. But having third parties running code that they themselves didn't write is a different level of support, which we have enough problems debugging issues as it stands, unfortunately.
Yeah, totally.
It's been so I'm also a contributor and maintainer of core DNS, and the plugin system there works really reasonably well. It is a little hard for some of the plugins to keep up with the upstream plugin interface, and so we should be a little more careful than the core DNS developers were in setting up the interface for how a plugin gets added. There was several times where it took 2 years to get one plugin that was external updated in order to actually get it compilable again.
Yeah, well, thankfully, at least, if we're talking in terms of service discovery, those APIs as they exist haven't changed in a good while. So, and of course, we can learn lessons from other projects. But yeah, right now, the interface is chuck it on disk, which doesn't have that problem. But these are trade-offs. We can discuss them at the next Dev Summit to see if the trade-offs have changed.
But anyway, the action item is to first fix the config package. We should probably elaborate on the GitHub issue or something, clarify.
There's an issue that's been open for 2-3 years already.
Yeah, so let's update with the latest, I guess.
Sorry to check. I think this is a perfect example of what has been discussed behind doors, kind of, or not behind doors, but like somewhere hidden in all the discussions that are happening, kind of, right? But we have more questions, so I recommend everybody kind of trying to follow the discussion, and then let's move on. But I think there's room for discussion at the next Dev Summit for sure, because we have 2 more questions coming in right now. And I would want to read the one by Mario. And he asked, if you are new to Prometheus and potentially need long-term storage, how do you decide between Thanos and Cortex for non-cloud storage? I currently lean towards Cortex just because it supports Cassandra and is free. And it reached V1. And now you just answered the question. I can't read it anymore. And Thanos only has experimental local
storage. It's in the answered list.
First of all, I think the best answer I can give you is go to the PromCon videos, the recorded videos. There was a talk by Bartek and Tom on the differences between both long-term storage systems, but maybe Bartek and Gautam want to quickly say something. I don't know.
Yeah, first of all, why Thanos has experimental local storage? That's curious. I'm curious why.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think maybe you mean that Cortex has experimental block storage, maybe something like that. I don't know. But anyway, that's a good question. To be honest, we are trying to, with the community, we already proposed various talks for next PromCon about that. So definitely stay tuned. And yeah, we're definitely working on some case studies and realistic deployments for certain requirements where we should go with what. There's definitely lots to choose from. So the best way is to start both and just explore, but obviously some good documentation on experience is something very useful. So we will be working on that, on some user stories more, for sure, from both Cortex and Thanos sides. Thanos won't support Cassandra, so if that's your choice, then your choice is easy here.
Okay, there was a follow-up on the file system. There's a file system driver for Thanos, which is experimental because that's for testing, but the general TSDB support is not experimental, and it's exactly the same that's used in.
I just want to add that you can run Minio to have an S3 interface that you can use against Thanos. And I would say that Thanos is just as production ready as Cortex. We just cut 1.0 because we are confident that we won't break things. But Thanos is also production ready.
Cool. Want to talk about Cortex advantages?
What?
Do you want to talk about Cortex a little bit? Or
no, so I just linked the talk that kind of compares Thanos and Cortex and when to use what. And also, okay, I can also add that we are embedding the Thanos storage engine in Cortex. So hopefully in the future you can start out with one and move to the other if the trade-offs change. But
cool.
Refer to the PromCon talk for the trade-offs.
Cool. I guess we have one more question. So it's from Alexander, slightly off topic. I'm using the Prometheus operator for a while now. Currently, I'm promoting more edge usage of Kubernetes within my team and with friends. Issue is that there are some components not working on ARM v6, v7, and ARM64 config map preload. Question, are there efforts to push the edge topics in general and for ARM v7-64 in specific?
Yeah, so I actually worked on this for my KubeCon talk, where I deployed Prometheus and the entire Prometheus stack on a Raspberry Pi. And I know exactly the problems around this. I think there's an issue on the Prometheus operator, and there are like 2 containers that we need to port to ARM. But like Prometheus itself, Alert Manager, and a bunch of others are already multi-arch, so you can start using them. Feel free just to like search for exactly that topic on the Prometheus operator repo, and it's literally just like making updates to the Makefile and the Docker files and such, and then that's it. Like that's also all that I had to do for my KubeCon talk, but yeah, I wasn't able to push through it in my free time, kind of, sadly. So help appreciated and welcome.
Cool. Anyone else has any opinion on ARM support for Prometheus and other tools?
I mean, we try to support those, right? And I think we'll continue, at least for 64-bits systems. I don't know if it's useful to pursue the 32. I don't know.
I mean, for Prometheus itself, you just like deploy it on a Raspberry Pi or even on like a K3s cluster, and it just pulls down the correct image from the registry. Like there's little you need to do like compared to running it on AMD 64. So like for Prometheus itself, that's fine. The question is like rather specific to the Prometheus operator.
Yeah, like for Prometheus itself, it should be noted that running at 32-bit will probably not end well, because as of Prometheus 2, we mmap a lot. And as of like the index optimizations, which is Tanj just picked up, we mmap even more. So like your total data size has to be less than probably like 500 megs these days for it to work on 32-bit. But this only applies to Prometheus itself. All other components in the ecosystem, I imagine, well, I guess probably Tanos as well, but all other non-storage components should be fine with 32-bit.
All right, perfect. I think that's all the time we have, actually. So I want to thank everybody showing up for today's call. I'm super glad that so many people joined after last week's failed attempt, and we still had like 30 people in the call. Super good updates and news. Great work the community is doing. And yeah, with that, I hope to see everybody next month. Actually in 3 weeks, because we needed to move it 1 week, right? So this is gonna happen a bit earlier in 3 weeks for people in APAC to be able to join as well.
But that's fine,
right?
Because social isolation makes us more productive, right?
I guess. All right, then stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in 3 weeks. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye-bye.